Hi, thank you all so much for joining us today, and especially many thanks to Kwan Yi for having us at the beautiful East Carolina University. The focus of today's program is the music of Joseph Achron, composer whose music I like a lot. And the main piece will be his Children's Suite, which is originally a large piece for sextet, and Jascha Heifetz arranged parts of it for violin and piano, so we'll play that later. But I wanted to start with something short and very beautiful, and this will be the first of zwei Stimmungen, two moods for violin and piano, a piece that was actually popular back in the day. It was even orchestrated by Bernard Herrmann, the composer who's mostly known for his collaboration with Alfred Hitchcock. It was orchestrated for violin orchestra by him, but we'll play the original. It's a beautiful short piece. And I have the privilege to have Hagai Shaham here with me. He's a world-renowned violinist and also my former teacher. And well, he has recorded, I think, the complete suites by Achron, almost the complete works by Achron, right? For violin and piano.
Not quite, but quite many.
Yeah, so I thought he would be really the authority to speak with about this repertoire, which I find fascinating. So thank you so much for joining us. And first of all, how did you get to playing Achron's music?
Interesting. I was living in New York at the time, 1990, 91, and I was approached by a pianist, Joyce Rosenzweig, who was a professor in Hyperion College, and she put together a concert of St. Petersburg School. And at the time I knew only the Hebrew melody, which I played at that concert, but she also asked me to play other pieces by, I think, Nessin and Rozovsky and with a cantor, and it was very, very interesting subject. And then I told my father, who himself a music teacher, a musicologist, I told him about Joseph Achron, and he told me a story that I first couldn't believe. He said that he heard that the whole collection was thrown to the trash and somebody found it and donated it to the National Library in Jerusalem, and said, well, this sounds like a legend, but maybe it's worth checking. So I called him, and indeed the whole collection was there, and I went there and I found everything still in boxes and not so organized. And I copied the whole violin repertoire, including the 3 concertos and sonatas and everything. I just copied everything, as well as photos. And then I started to investigate in the repertoire and see what is worth. And there are several styles there and a lot of notes, a lot.
So we really associate Achron with this Eastern European Jewish school. Maybe we could talk about that too. But there is really quite a lot of other styles. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, first of all, Achron was a child prodigy, violinist. So his father was a merchant, but he played the violin as well. And from evidences, in the book, it says that when he played the violin, everybody had to listen, and he was a very good violinist. And he was also a cantor at the synagogues. Maybe not a professional, but he sang really beautifully. So Achron had heard music since early age. He started to study the violin with his father, and then showed a lot of talent. They moved from Lithuania. They moved later to Warsaw, where he studied with Lotte, who was the teacher of Huberman. And then they moved to St. Petersburg to study with Leopold Auer, the teacher of Heifetz, cymbalist Elman. And he started to study composition with Liadov at the St. Petersburg School. So he was very talented in both areas. Liadov liked him very much. He was very sharp, very smart. Then he started a career. He moved to Berlin. He played many concerts. He played with Nikisch, with the Gewandhaus Orchestra, Beethoven Concerto, with the Zoncadenza, and started to be a very successful violinist. Joachim heard him in one of the concerts, and he said that he's aesthetically as good as Kubelik, but he has more beautiful sound. So apparently it was really fantastic violinist, and I'm still, until today, I'm looking for any recording of him playing, which I couldn't find yet. It's very interesting because he lived through the recorded era, but not an evidence that I could find a trace. But then at that period, in the beginning, he composed, his Opus 1, he was a kid, he didn't know how to write the piano part, even the F clef, so a harpist wrote it for him. And, Opus 2, I would say until Opus 32, which is the Stimmungs, it's not yet Jewish. So it starts more like Wieniawski, more modern than Wieniawski, but short pieces for the violin, and very difficult because he was extremely virtuosic violinist. You can see it by his writing. But the pieces, Serenade and Souvenir from Warsaw, and Scherzo, and all kind of Perpetuum mobile and stuff like this. And as it goes on, Opus 32 is already with a hint of, I would say, Scriabin or something. It gets a little bit more complex harmonically. Opus 33 is the Hebrew melody, and then starts what I call his Jewish period. So he was introduced to the whole thing by Warszawski, who was one of the founders of the Jewish Society for Jewish Folk Music in St. Petersburg. And legend says that he wrote this, composed this Hebrew melody after a melody he heard in the synagogue in Warsaw. Within half an hour, he just put down the arrangement, what we play today, which is quite remarkable.
Yes.
And the piece had immediate great success. So this piece actually was arranged right away, probably. His wife was a singer, so there's this also lyrics for that in 5 different languages: Yiddish, Russian, Hebrew, English, German, and arrangement for violin, voice, piano, and violin obbligato. In addition to symphony orchestra and solo violin, and chamber orchestra and solo violin, and whatever you want. So that's his hit. That's, I think, one of the reasons that that's the piece we know today. But there are other really, really beautiful works and more complex, harmonically and structurally and everything. But this was his, visiting card, and a pretty good one. Right time.
Yeah, it's remarkable that this first piece became in this new style became the most well known, and then started, as you say, his Jewish period.
Which he left after. I think he evolved farther than that. He went post-Scriabin, more atonal, a lot of chromaticism, very contrapuntal. Contrapuntal, yeah. It became more modern after this Jewish period. And then, of course, he was also exposed to influences in Berlin. He moved again from Berlin to St. Petersburg, and then again to Berlin, before coming to Israel for a few months, and then to the States. So he studied the new styles when he was in Europe, in Berlin. All the new languages, and Stravinsky, Bartok, Schoenberg, who actually appreciate him very much.
Yeah. There's a famous quote that I think after Achron died, Schoenberg said that he is one of the most underrated of modern composers. Yeah,
that's right.
Actually, there's I just said it to you. There's this film on YouTube. He wrote the music, and the musical language is almost Schoenberg-like. This is from his time in Hollywood. He wrote this film score. So it's, as you will hear, this is really not very Jewish sounding. The opening it's not for a ballet, so we have a waltz. So this is almost, post-Tchaikovsky, somewhat.
Yeah. I wonder if he was composing that after watching the silent film and really composed the music according to the timing of the film.
It seems very...
Because that's the way they used to do. When Schoenberg, by the way, came to Universal Studios and he was asked to do that, what I just described, and he said, "I'm sorry, but I'm going to compose my music and you're going to put the film according to my music and not the other way around. So of course I didn't take the job.
That's right. Yeah. Apropos Schönberg, this little part really reminded me of the music of Schönberg. This is sort of the climax of this. Maybe some Debussy too. Here. Yeah, so this is really not associated with Achron.
Yeah. Well, quite remarkable.
Why do you think somehow it's gotten somewhat forgotten, or?
Well, that's a very good question, and it has to do with many factors. Fashion, luck, the wind. So when he was alive, and his good friends, his classmates, actually championed his pieces, not only the Hebrew melody. So I know that Heifetz played several. He played the Hebrew dance and the Hebrew lullaby and the Stimmung and the Hebrew melody, of course, several times. And Bronislaw Gimpel, who was his friend, played the dance improvisation, recorded and the Hebrew dance and other pieces. Louis Kaufman, who was also the leader of the studio orchestra in Los Angeles, a great violinist, recorded even one of his Stimmungs with orchestra, the Opus 36. So the pieces were played much more often than later, but it has to do with, for instance, a music edition that decides that they don't longer print the music like Universal, which was in Vienna, or Zimmerman edition, which was in Frankfurt. So all of a sudden they don't print the music, so the music is not available. Or Yivne or Yuval, which completely ceased to exist. So you don't have the music, and this is pre-internet time. So that's it. People don't buy the music, they don't play the music. And the other thing is, it has to do with fashions. Today, if you make a survey, how many short pieces for violin and piano are played in recitals, which recitals another thing which is diminishing, even pre-corona time. You have maybe 20 pieces which are played again and again. Okay, so you have the several Kratzers and few Wieniawski and one Bazzini, and we have the same pieces, and everybody, we love it and we want to hear it again. If you look at the repertoire of the violinists from earlier in the first half of previous century, each one had huge amount of short pieces which they championed and they played. And Achron's pieces were some of them.
Actually, I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you approach playing those Jewish pieces, sort of stylistically a little bit. How close do you try to, if at all, try to imitate, say, cantorial singing?
Very good question. Yeah. Very good question. Very deep. I did several recording projects. This is the first of them that deal with music which is some of it based on ethnic music or world music, what we call today. I think that music is a language. You would like to be as fluent in the style before you make a project like that. I always give my students an example. Imagine that you are going to play a concert tour in Korea, and you're taking a very famous Korean tune, which actually is very, very sad. Everybody in Korea knows it's very sad, but you have no idea what it is. You just get the music, and you decide to play it scherzando, fast and happy. And you come to Korea and you, as a gesture to the audience, you play it as an encore. And the audience listen to the melody and they say, what on earth this guy's doing? So I think one needs to get as close to the roots as possible when digging into such material, especially the Jewish period. So before this project, I bought several CDs of historical cantors, listening again and again. I mean, of course, I also heard cantors in the synagogue in real life, but it did help me to understand closer where Achron came from, and also listening to the style of the violinists from the same school, the Leopold Auer's class. Mm-hmm. So cimbalist Heifetz, Misha Elman, Tosha Seidel, these guys. Mm-hmm. And of course other people from the era. So there was a certain stylistic manner that people played at the time. And when you do that, you develop more and more or refine your own taste. So I think that slides are very important, but one needs to be careful how often and where and how much you slide.
Speaking of glisses, so I'm playing the Children's Suite in Heifetz's arrangement of the original sextet by Achron. And he
original is for piano, by the way.
Ah, okay, so that's
piano
interesting.
Solo.
Mm-hmm.
So first is a piano piece, and then he was asked by a group from New York, I think, to arrange it for this ensemble. Mm-hmm. String quartet, clarinet, and piano, like the Prokofiev.
That's right, yes.
So these are 20 pieces. And then Heifetz took 8 of them. I played most of them. It is fascinating. This piece is based on the biblical trope signs. So each movement is based on another symbol of the reading of the Bible, the singing the Bible. It is considered to be one of his better pieces by many scholars. Mm-hmm. I think it's miniatures. It's like little 20 overtures, each one with a different name to do with kids, children. Mm-hmm. So like riding on a wooden horse, or soap bubbles, or kind of a little puppy.
That's right.
Go to sleep or something.
Mm-hmm.
Really, very, very charming piece of music.
And it is, my friend John Maltese pointed out to me that, so it is actually dedicated to Bobby, which is Heifetz's son, the arrangement. This was, very nice to hear, or to realize. Yeah.
But also this music, I don't think it's available. I think it's Carl Fischer. I'm not sure it's available to buy today.
That's right, it's not.
Because I was asked, somebody contacted me from England, where can I get the music? Because he heard the recording and economy, and it's rare. But I don't know why they don't print it. At least on demand. By the way, on demand you can get music if you contact Editions. I bought from Schott and Universal. I bought a lot of his music, and I paid per page. So they do like authorized copy. They would print it from their, old print, and you pay whatever, $10 a page.
Wow. Okay.
A lot. I mean, it's a lot of money. The Stimmung suite, it was a lot of money at the time.
Well, with Heifetz, I saw in this edition of the Children's Suite actually a lot of things that I saw you do, somewhat positionless. I don't know if that's the way to call it, but stretching and remaining on the same string to keep color, and sometimes for technical just velocity, I guess, make it faster. Is that where sort of you took these ideas, or from Heifetz, or?
Again, I was listening to this school, which anyway I adore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I admire this kind of playing. I mean, you can hate Heifetz, but you cannot get better than this. So, and also his other colleagues, yeah. I mean, Shumsky, students of Leopold Auer, Milstein, timbalists. I mean, Dosha Seidel, it's amazing stuff. So they had rather fast shifts, never too sticky,
Mm-hmm.
never too fat, and the feeling was that they can go as fast, and it's light. So the fast notes are never dragging, and accordingly I try to do my fingerings. Now it's interesting because Achron didn't put fingerings in a lot of his music, but he did in his arrangements of the Grieg short pieces, lyric pieces. He has about 6 of them, which I recorded for Grieg CD, and it's very, very advanced. So he would go up and change color and go to fingerings like this.
Mm-hmm.
And just to make a point to change a color, to change a finger on the same note.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I took from these ideas and tried to do in the same manner my fingerings. And of course there are places that you just have to be practical, because I found 2 things about his writing. One is that he probably had spider fingers. So he writes sometimes positions which are stratospheric positions. You can't even get there. And then he writes semitones and trills on the top of the instrument. I'm talking about A, B flat next to the bridge,
Mm-hmm.
trill. And that's how he ends a piece. So, and the other thing, he has a lot of stuff in a very, very high positions with a lot of semitones. So you have to be really,
Mm-hmm.
spidery bead up there. So you have to be practical. And the other thing is that some of his places are extremely fast. Extremely fast and uncomfortable. If you compare him, his writing to Kreisler, for instance, or
Mhm.
even Hubai or Wieniawski, virtuosic, but everything is like sits comfortably on the violin, and he has a different kind of technique, I found.
Uh-huh.
I know that he wrote an article on method of how to play the chromatic
That's right, yes.
scale, which I didn't find yet. I know that he wrote it, I saw examples, but I didn't find the article itself. So he was interested in this and was also teaching, apparently also in Russia. He had a professorship in Kharkov and also in Worcester Conservatory in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish I could talk to his students or something.
I wanted to ask you about how would you compare his music to Bloch, also, since you've recorded also a lot of Bloch.
Yeah, interesting question. I mean, they had no connection, I think. Bloch started it from scratch from another place. He was a Swiss composer,
Mm-hmm.
a student of Isaïe, actually, also very good violinist, supposed to be. But his Jewish period started when he came to the States. But probably also he was influenced by his memories and what he heard when he was younger. So the first piece was the Baal Shem Suite, 3 pictures from the Hasidic life, dedicated to his mother, memory of his mother. So also it is in the Jewish style, using several of those intervals. First of all, the augmented second, but not only, also the fourth. which is a little bit to do with the shofar. So you have a lot of those intervals, and again, I think that Bloch was much more detailed in his writing, as he was writing to people who do not understand the language. So the number of articulation symbols, in crescendo, diminuendo, poco, accelerando, poco retardando, poco fermata, comas, is a million times more than Achron would put. So Achron he wrote the notes, and he assumed that everybody who plays it knows how to play it. And Bloch really directs us in exact style what to play. I don't think it limits us, but it guides us.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
for
pleasure.
Sharing. Yeah.
Thanks for the interview.
No, of course.
And now we'll perform Children's Suites by Joseph Achron in Heifetz's arrangement for violin and piano. 8 charming little scenes from childhood. And we'll start right away with Jumping with Tongue Out. Sleep, my puppy. Birdies. March of Toys. Mama, tell me a fairy tale. The top. The caravan. And the last one, Parade with Presents. Thank you for watching, and thank you to Kwan. See you all next time.